In this lesson, we're going to talk about how to create the work breakdown structure, or WBS. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the most important lessons that we're going to cover during this module. We're literally going to create the product that forms the structure of our schedule. So let's dig in. So what is the WBS? Well, it identifies 100% of the stuff, the deliverables of the project. It's the scope of the project. And all of this stuff, all these deliverables, they are the result of requirements. They're traceable back to the requirements. The requirements came from our stakeholders. The stakeholders gave requirements that fell within those goals and objectives, the boundaries of the project. So everything tells the same story. The products are traceable back to the requirements. They satisfy the requirements. And these things, these deliverables, the content of our WBS, they're products. It's product oriented. So they're nouns. Even though the name of the WBS has the word work, there is no work captured in the WBS. We are simply breaking down the products, identifying the things, and these things are going to drive the work. So we're really breaking down the project into the products and deliverables, and then from there, the tasks are going to be what we actually schedule to develop or support these things. That's why it's called a work breakdown structure. We're breaking down the things, and it's going to help us identify the work. And this is going to provide structure to the project. We could literally group all of our costs based on this WBS. We're also going to group tasks based on the WBS. So the WBS is really going to form the skeleton of the project. It's the structure of the project. And like I said, it's going to be the structure of our schedule as well. Now, we want this to be a standalone document. We're going to capture the entire scope of the project. It could literally serve as a checklist as we go through and execute the project. If we deliver all of the products, all of the deliverables, then we have satisfied the project. So we do want it to be standalone. We can use Microsoft Project, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, doesn't matter, but we want it to be standalone. And I'm going to show you some formats coming up here in the coming slides. So I said that this is a collection of deliverables. So what are deliverables? Well, we instinctively know that the final product, the thing that's going to the customer, that is a deliverable. But the WBS also covers those things that aren't going to the customer, that are going to be required to support the end deliverables, such as interim products. We may have to develop some kind of prototypes or design models to get an approved final design. We also have spares. We've also got documentation. I've worked on some programs that have a ton of documentation. A lot of time and energy, a lot of work goes into developing and QCing and approving documentation. So these are things that are part of the project. We've also got training and training materials, events, conferences, meetings, reviews. The basic rule is anything that's going to have resources, time, or energy allocated to it, we want to capture it in the WBS. All of these things, these are all nouns, and they're all going to have resources, time, or energy allocated to support or produce them. Now, to create the WBS, we use a process called decomposition. We're going to take the project and we're going to break it down into smaller and smaller things, deliverables, products. And as we decompose them down, break them down, at the lowest level, we've got what is called a work package. It's still not a verb. It's a thing. And that thing is assignable to a person, team, or agency. Now, as we decompose our things down, our deliverables down, we want to follow this 100% rule, which basically says, as we break elements down, we want to break them down and include all of the children. And I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about on one of these slides coming up as we discuss a doghouse, but we don't want to miss anything. If we break a piece down, we have to break it down to include all of the sub pieces. Now, as we break the project down and deliverables down, what is the right level of decomposition? How far down, how small do we want to make these pieces? And the answer is we want to be able to make accurate cost and duration estimates. If I can look at an element and if I can estimate how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost to produce or support, I'm at the right level. If I can't, then I need to break it down one more level or two more levels until I can answer that question. So now let's dig a little deeper into decomposition. Here we've got our doghouse. Now, as we broke the doghouse down, we decided to break it into project management to cover our documentation, and then the doghouse itself, and into the pieces of the doghouse. So that's how we're going to break this down. And we're going to break it down, like I said, to that level that we can make those accurate cost and duration estimates. So now talking about that 100% rule again. If I broke my doghouse down into the frame and the walls and the roof, if my doghouse also has a floor and I didn't include it in my WBS, I violated the 100% rule because now the children don't equal the parent, the doghouse. I'm missing the floor, so I need to add it. And then can I estimate the cost and duration for these elements? If I look at the roof and I talk to the carpenter and I say, hey, can you tell me how much time and how much money it's going to cost to produce the roof? If the carpenter can answer that question, then we're good. If he or she can't, then let's break it down until they can. And now we've got different formats. Like I said, we can use Excel, Word, or PowerPoint. This top one up here with the graphic came out of Word or PowerPoint. It is nice and easy to look at. It looks nice and organized, but they are very difficult and cumbersome to use in large projects. So I tend to use those types of formats for my training slides. But in real projects, it just gets really cumbersome, especially when you start getting hundreds or thousands of elements. And now we've got to the left, I've got this Excel version. There's indentation. It looks nice and organized. It is easy to use. It's just difficult to bring into Microsoft Project, but it is functional. The format that I prefer to use is on the bottom here in the middle. I've got one column set up for my WBS elements. The neat thing about this is I can literally copy and paste that one column of information and I can bring it into Microsoft Project, and now my WBS literally forms the structure of my schedule. And this is what we see. I've got my WBS on the left, and I copy and pasted that column of information into Microsoft Project. So now I've got engineering plan, material list, purchase order. I've got a one-to-one correlation of my WBS elements in my schedule. And now, emphasizing that point where the WBS drives the work, under each of those elements, these lowest level elements are work packages. Under each of those, I have a task, at least one task, sometimes more. So for engineering plan, my task, it sounds like work, develop engineering plan. Material list, the work is develop material list. Purchase order, the work is draft purchase order, submit purchase order. So by doing that, my WBS literally forms the structure of my schedule. And now, because I captured all the stuff, now I've got a greater likelihood that I'm going to capture all the work. So that's what we're doing here. We're using the structure of the WBS. We're using the WBS itself to drive the work, to identify the work. And now it's organized. It's nice, neat, and clean. So that's the WBS in a nutshell. It is one of the most important products we're going to develop. It identifies the total scope of the project. It's all of the things, the products, and deliverables. And it's traceable back to the requirements. And ultimately, it's going to form that structure of our schedule. And that last point, if you identify all the stuff, and then we identify the work to create the stuff. And if you miss something, if you miss one of the things or miss one of the deliverables, you're going to miss work. And eventually, you're going to realize that you didn't plan for that work. And ultimately, it's going to happen when it's already too late. And now you've got to jump through hoops to solve an issue where you forgot something. So just plan right up front. So that completes our lesson on the WBS. Now you've got a good understanding of what it is and how to create one.